You're listening to Parents You've Got This, the expert guide to parenthood, the complete guide to fertility, pregnancy, birth, baby and parenthood. This podcast is proudly supported by Mustela, a natural origin skincare for babies and children, recommended by healthcare professionals. Mustela by Parents' Side since 1950.
The witching hour is such a tricky time for parents, and we're so excited to have Dr. Laura Conway back on the podcast today to give us her tips and tricks on how to handle the witching hour.
Dr. Laura Conway and Dr. Fallon Cook are from Infant Sleep Australia, and they have created the SOMBELL program. So if you haven't already, make sure you check it out. They both have PhDs in different types of the way children learn and children develop and in sleep. And so they come to their program with evidence-based information, and they create tailored sleep solutions that work for each family. So we are super lucky to have them on our Parents You've Got This team. And thank you so much, Laura, for being with us today.
It's a pleasure.
Now, the witching hour is a term we've all heard of. From my experience, it maybe is not just an hour, it can go on for quite a long time. Can you talk to us a little bit, please, about what the witching hour is?
Yeah, of course. So the witching hour tends to happen for much younger babies, and it's normally in the late afternoon or early evening. It's a period of time where your baby can seem completely inconsolable, lots of crying, and you're right, it doesn't often last just for an hour. It can last for 2-3 hours for some families. So it can be a really intense period of time on the back of already a long day, potentially at home with the baby.
So why does it happen? Is it a certain developmental age, or why does the baby start crying non-stop for hours?
So as with many things around child development, we don't necessarily know the reasons why it happens, but we know that it does happen. It's a developmental period of time. It normally begins when the baby is about 2 weeks of age. So when you first bring your baby home from hospital, you might have that 2-week period of thinking, this is great.
Have one of those.
And then you get lulled into a false sense of security, and then 2 weeks of age, your baby wakes up, and then they can start to have the witching hour. And it tends to start at around 2 weeks of age, and then it goes up till around about 4 months, but it peaks, it kind of rises, it peaks at somewhere around 2.5-3 months, and then it decreases. So it's a period of time that happens in all babies.
And what is the impact on baby and parents of witching hour?
Well, the good news is that there's no impact on the baby. But the bad news is that it can have really negative impacts on the family. Having a baby who is crying inconsolably, no matter what you do, can be really challenging. We all know that baby cry, very intense, penetrating. It's designed to make you be alert. You can really feel it, so it can be a very intense period of time. So therefore it's really important to be kind to yourself as new parents, to know that this is normal behaviour, you're not doing anything wrong, and think about how you can build supports around you to help you through that witching hour at that latter part of the day.
And so how does the witching hour affect a baby's sleep?
Well, when a baby is in the witching hour, we simply cannot expect them to be able to sleep. So oftentimes parents will be able to tell you when their baby's witching hour starts. So it might be on the dot of 4:35 or 5:35, or so knowing when it's going to happen and then getting a sense of how long it's going to last can help you determine at what point you would be looking at bedtime. So you'd be looking at bedtime after the witching hour. Don't try and aim for putting your baby down during the witching hour. It's a period of time that your baby will need to get through, and that you will need to manage your own responses to, and think about bedtime happening after that.
So when you're in the middle of the witching hour, Laura, what are some strategies that parents can try to help to soothe their little one?
Yeah, so of course, when your baby is crying a lot, you would first of all always make sure that there isn't a medical reason for the crying. And let's assume for the witching hour there isn't a medical reason, that your baby is fed, they're in a clean nappy, they're in comfortable clothes. So you tick off those things to make sure there's nothing environmental going on for your baby. And then be thinking about how you can support them through this period. So carrying, comforting them, walking around, pacing, talking to them, singing. You could also take them into a dark room, wrap them. Lots of babies like the feeling of being wrapped, so bringing their stimulation down lower. That can also help bring your stimulation down as well. Knowing that if you feel overwhelmed, that it's absolutely appropriate to put your baby down in a safe place, like their cot or bassinet, and then walk away to take a break if you feel like you're becoming overwhelmed. That crying, as we were saying, is very viscerally impacting, and it's okay to put your baby in a safe place whilst you step away, go outside, ring your partner or your friend to calm yourself down. And the number one thing not to do is to shake your baby. When you're feeling very overwhelmed with that intense crying behaviour, oftentimes you just want it to stop.
Yes.
And so that's when we do see cases of shaken babies, when parents or caregivers are just totally overwhelmed and want it to stop. So much better to put your baby down somewhere safe, walk away, have some fresh air, and then come back to it when you're feeling calmer.
And is there any way that we can minimise the witching hour if we set up our day differently with a baby's routine?
I wish there was. So what we can think about is just knowing that for each baby it can differ. So the witching hour sometimes might be 35 minutes, sometimes it might be 2 hours. And think about ensuring that you've got as many of the household tasks done that you need to do before that witching hour hits. So if you have older children, you might think about having dinner already prepared so that you can perhaps have your baby in a carrier whilst you're just dishing out the pre-prepared dinner for your older children, and just take the pressure off yourself so that you're not having to do too many things around the time that witching hour is hitting.
That's such good advice. I used to do that. I used to cook dinner at breakfast just so I knew by the time we got to dinner there actually was dinner.
Yeah.
And on that, how can we help to support our partner or our friend that has a little one that is going through the witching hour?
I think that if those around the new parents are also educated that this is perfectly normal baby behaviour, so that they can help reassure mum or dad that they aren't doing anything wrong. That can be really helpful. Think about if you are able to come to help your friend or family member at that witching hour, speaking to them beforehand about what would be most helpful. Because if it would be most helpful for you to carry the baby for half an hour whilst they have a break, then that's what you will do. If actually for the mum or dad it's going to be more helpful for you to fold the washing or give dinner to the other children whilst they look after the baby during the witching hour, then do that. So have a chat with the parent to find out how you can best support them.
When as a parent do you know that it's something more? You know, you might think, oh, it's just the witching hour, but potentially, I guess there could be a medical reason behind it, like colic or something like that. How do you know if your baby has reflux or, something more medical's going on?
Yeah. So the witching hour normally happens at a particular point of the day. If your child is unwell, you may find that unsettled behaviour is happening all across the day and at night, not just at that particular moment of time. If your child is unwell, you may find that there are other factors that you can see, such as a change in their stools, a temperature, a change in their physical appearance, and you'd definitely be wanting to have a chat with your GP or health nurse to make sure that there isn't anything medical going on that would need to be addressed.
Laura, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today and for reassuring us all that the witching hour is normal and it will pass. So thank you very much.
A pleasure.
A huge thanks to Mustela for sponsoring this episode. When we become parents, we welcome any tips and tricks that can make our lives easier. Mustela's baby massage oil is perfect for bonding time with your little one and for a baby massage to soothe, moisturise and help calm and prepare your baby for sleep. Mustela is our family's favourite.
You've been listening to the Expert Guide to Parenthood podcast, and never forget, parents, you've got this.
Join a Parents You've Got This masterclass today to be prepared, excited and educated for pregnancy, birth, baby and parenthood. Visit www.parentsyouvegotthis.com.au and sign up for a masterclass today.
The information provided in this podcast is general in nature and is intended to support, not replace, a discussion with your doctor or healthcare professional. Parents You've Got This take no responsibility for any medical decisions made by individuals based on the information provided in this podcast.